welcome back to LTC Heroes Live by Experience Care. My name is Peter Murphy Lewis. I'm your host. I am wrapping up my third day at HIMSS 2023 in Chicago, and I'm excited because this is my second year in a row of talking to a head executive at Zoom. This week it is Heidi West. She's the head of healthcare at Zoom. Heidi, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Heidi, you and I have been chatting back and forth. Yesterday, I almost lost my microphones,
I know.
so we had to cancel. So I feel like I've got to know you on the personal side before we got started, which is always makes for a better interview. I want to start off with what you told me right before we went live, which is about your innovation program that you're doing with Arizona. Tell me how it got started, what your role is, and then we'll talk about the cool things that you've heard that are coming out of it.
Okay. Well, we have a partnership with ASU, Arizona State University, and they've built an innovation center there. And the intent is to have students working alongside the faculty to become innovative and creative ways to use different solutions, including the work that we're doing and the work that Zoom is doing. There's a lot coming out. It's amazing how creative and innovative young minds are when they're thinking about how technology can solve practical problems. So one of the things they've come up with is leveraging drones and having Zoom on the drone to help students walk home safely at night. And it just gives, who would have thought of that but a student who has fear of walking home safely at night? And the way that they've been able to engage with security and know that they're home safely and their families know they're home safely, it's just, that's one example, but just an incredible opportunity to grow from that.
Yeah, the question came from as we were preparing, and I was like, help me translate everything that Zoom is doing in the healthcare space beyond what the common user is, which is we just log into a meeting. And you started naming off some cool examples. And that one sounded neat to me because I like to take tech that seems a long ways away from us and translate it into something that's going to make sense and we're going to use. Tell me a little bit about why you started that program and why Zoom takes things from outside of their headquarters to talk to a 19-year-old in Arizona to come up with ideas to help you improve healthcare.
The program started about 6 to 9 months ago. I'm not 100% sure when we started, but the situation or the focus area was around education and healthcare. And then there are a couple other nuanced solutions that are coming out of that. And one of the beautiful things about Zoom having different verticals is how solutions can transcend from one vertical to the next. So I talked about the drone example. Imagine an emergency and you have whether it's a crash site or whether it's any kind of natural disaster, being able to have Zoom on drones and fly into an area that may not be safe and allow for EMTs or even doctors remotely help start having triage conversations with it's sort of endless of what you can do. So the one thing I did want to share, Eric Yuan, who is our CEO, invests at least 20% of our R&D comes from customer feedback. So we don't make our decisions in a bubble. It really does come from all different sources, our customer advisory boards, our customer engagements, and then from, any everyday people or students or people that have really exciting ideas and ones that we see have an opportunity to change something.
It's funny that you went into that transition because it was my next question. I was going to ask you, take me into your room where ideas come about. I imagine whiteboards and glass, and I was going to ask you, who's in that room when you're doing, research and development? Who are the partners that you're talking to outside of Zoom where you're trying to get ideas? And give me an idea of how an idea comes to fruition. And if you want to think of an example of something that's about to come out or something that maybe's come out in the last 6 months, and take me to when it was a seed of an idea and it gets
I have a perfect example because it happened last year at HIMSS. Had lunch with a customer who said they would like for Zoom to have to be integrated into the patient infotainment systems. so that if a patient's in a room, you're not having to bring any more carts or cameras in, but it's a very simplified chiclet within the experience of infotainment systems. And he mentioned one particular infotainment system that they were considering. So my head of strategic partnerships and I walked over and met the CEO of that infotainment system, came back and had conversations with our product managers, our engineers, compliance and regulatory to make sure we're adhering to all the responsible nature of the business that we're in. And then we made many conversations with the partner, looking at that customer to potentially be a beta or POC, and then doing the work to figure out what the integration is, whether it's our open APIs or how to figure out what that looks like. And then we built a patient room of the future in our corporate headquarters, and some of the product managers for the product, along with a customer in the Bay Area. They gave us a bed. They gave us a doll to have in the patient's room. We put all the pan-tilt Zoom cameras in the room, and now we're integrated with that same infotainment system a year later and have clients coming to us as a result of that conversation. So it wasn't us running to them saying, you need to consider this. We were already looking at how can we leverage some technology in the patient's room, but that was presented by a customer, met with the CEO the same day, the beauty of HIMSS, and then bringing the different people together to figure out the best way to come with that solution alongside our customers, and we have it.
That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And feel free to say, Peter, I'm going to pass on the next question. Are there any conversations in the last 2.5 days here that you are willing to at least share an idea that's come about and you're like, I'd give this a 50-50% chance that if you come back next year, Peter, we're going to be able to show you something that looks like this?
But the way Zoom is broken down for healthcare, we are our own segment within Zoom. There are 5 segments in North America. Healthcare is one of them. So we are dedicated to this space. I have my own head of strategic partnerships. I have my own head of product management. We have engineers dedicated to Zoom. So we're not this technology company trying to squeeze a product into this vertical. We are building for this vertical. So I have an entire sales organization, solutions engineering, as well as marketing and all of the things you could imagine drive a business. So that's how we're set up.
I have some questions about your leadership, and even leadership is probably not the word, the way that you learn. So when you come to these conventions and you know that a percentage of it is meetings, a percentage of the press, like this interview, there's a percentage of you learning. How do you go about picking up trends, hearing things, determining if you're going to act upon it? And you can feel free to share part when you're here at the convention, so you go to a talk or you have a conversation. But take me to 2 weeks from now when you're at home. How do you pull in things? Are you listening to newsletters? Are you watching YouTube? Do you isolate? Do you go for long walks and brainstorm?
All of the above, I would say. I have wonderful mentors in this industry, and I think when you believe you're done learning, you're probably done in healthcare, because there's no shortage of growth in this space. I have wonderful mentors in the industry that I've known for years in different roles, and I will call on them. I've had the opportunity to meet up with some of them while I'm here, and we'll brainstorm certain things and determine whether or not there's opportunity. My customers are the greatest source of opportunity and give us feedback. Let us know what we might be missing. Where are other areas that you're investigating while you're here, and learn. So this is what I'm doing here, obviously. But when I'm home, I do take advantage of different sources. I read some of the trade rags for sure, the healthcare. I do definitely try to do the quiet time and just reflect on what I've heard and what are things I believe Zoom can impact. And then the last thing we do is we're doing rounds at our hospitals and some of our other clients, meeting with different specialists across the organization, going into labor and delivery and, the ED and med-surg floors and behavioral health, and trying to get a sense of what are your biggest challenges. So we go full in to figuring out what we don't know.
Heidi, I have two follow-up questions as we start to wrap up, and I'm going to throw them both out, and you can field which one in which order you like.
Okay.
They're related, but I think you're definitely your emotional intelligence is high because I've paid attention to the way that you listen. You're going to understand the difference. One is I want you to tell me, if I spoke to your boss, what's one thing that they feel like you've done amazing in the last 2 years in the healthcare space at Zoom? And they've shared it with their team. The CEO knows, Zoom knows that you're kicking butt. And then the second one, what is something that feels amazing to you that you know what you've done in the tech space has an outcome, a positive outcome on the way that we deliver care, and that you might have heard it from a customer. You either heard something like, "Hey, I Zoom did this and this and this." They might not know it's Heidi, but it got back to you, and you know that your team did it.
Yeah. Well, if you were to ask my boss about me in healthcare, I would say I had to build a team. Zoom didn't necessarily have the entire structure that I laid out previously. So creating a team with a culture and a culture of caring and executing with respect and intent and recognizing the communities that we serve in healthcare was incredibly important to me. Creating the ecosystem and bringing in different partners and driving different partnerships has been critical to our success. And I've also become an advocate for this industry within Zoom. So we have our support organization has healthcare specific engineers that can engage knowing the language. I meet with product management. I meet with everyone within the organization. I do reverse briefings with our executives so they know what's going on in the healthcare space. And I think ultimately, more than anything, they know how much I care and that I want to make sure we're doing right by our hospital, our customers. As far as from the industry perspective, I think there's one thing that just stands out. I had a colleague who at one point, he had been a customer. His name's Ed Marks. He's very well known in the industry. And we were doing a podcast one day, and I made a comment about, we've been doing this a long time, or, just in jest. And he said, there's no question how much you care and how much you're willing to invest to do right by clients. And it really, you're caring and you're doing all you have, but you never know if people know that how much you care. So that one was really personal for me. And then from a broader Zoom standpoint, and this is kind of amazing for the broader Zoom, we've had people sitting next to somebody in an airport and they say, not in healthcare, in another part of our organization, and they have a Zoom shirt on or something, and a behavioral health organization or a suicide prevention line or something that just hits you right in your heart when you hear about the important work that they do. The comments like, Zoom has saved thousands of lives through this pandemic just by making us available, and the difference of video and the engagement and the personalization has made all the difference. And those are, these are the kind of people that don't have the opportunity to hear those great stories every day like I do. And then it's meaningful for them, and they're posting it on Zoom chat saying, healthcare is so lucky that they get to hear the work we do because it's so meaningful. So we have that lucky piece of it as well.
100%. Thanks for sharing those two stories. I know not everybody feels comfortable enough to be vulnerable and share, take off their humble hat. So it was wonderful having you on the program, Heidi. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you at HIMSS 2024.
I look forward to it. Thank you.